Welcome to Edu of Steps, the podcast that guides young minds through life's biggest decisions. I'm your host, Olay Shorunke, and today we're diving into a topic that affects millions of students and families, the hidden cost of education. Festus is here with me today. Festus, we're running into year three. We're running nice and through year three. What's been the best part of your week so far?
This weekend. this weekend. Yeah. The week is good, but actually the fact that I got some rest and we did the event yesterday and Friday, and so that was really good, and it was good to see that we're having lasting impact on students' lives. I think one of the things when we got started, for me, that was like a really deep consideration was like, how do you impact somebody's life in a very short period of time? To me, aside from a person having a true, genuine revelation of Christ, I think that it's very difficult to impact somebody's life in any other way. And so my thought process was just like, okay, I'm not sure if people are gonna remember us and remember the things that we taught and things like that. But this weekend proved that, man, we're having some serious impact. So, it's always a good reminder.
Definitely, totally agree. Absolutely. We're also joined by two incredible minds, Jamark Crawford, on the verge of becoming Dr. Crawford. Crawford, what's the number one thing kids need right now?
Supporting their parents. Thank you for having me today.
Supporting the parents. I love it. And of course, we have Daniel Hill with the hands-on experience in education. Daniel, what's really happening in our schools is flying under the radar and going viral on social media.
Oh, wow, boy. Dang. I'm going with that one, man. Hey, we're on a whole different level today, boy. Shoot. Kids not understanding the real cost of their lack of work, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
A work ethic. How Crawford.
Wonderful. And you have someone with you there, Festus. Sorry, Hill. You wanna introduce us to who's over there behind you?
That's the baby girl's grandmama over here. Mama's
okay.
Grandma had me hurry up and drive home going 95 on the interstate just to get here. So
I just always like to be there for my grandkids, like I've always been there for my boys. So.
Oh, wonderful. And she's definitely there for us. She's taking care of us every Sunday. We've had Bible study over there, so. And so, but first, we have a special guest on with us, Amaya Taylor Hill, who's a senior nursing student from Tullahoma, Tennessee, passionate about fitness. Welcome, Amaya. How you doing today?
Good. How are you?
Doing good. It's been a while since we've had you on, but I want to start off first. I want you to start off by telling us how you came into contact with Light in Your Success and sharing your experience that you had with our listeners.
I think it was the summer. I was at my uncle's. I think I was taking like summer classes or something like that. And I was talking, I was like, oh my goodness, school is so expensive, this and this and that. And he was telling me about y'all's program and how I could join. It was on Sundays, I think. And so I started joining, and then I started to talk more on it. And then I kind of got connected. And then my uncle got me the scholarship book. And then I also took some advice from y'all, which ended up helping me a lot. So.
Did it save you some money?
It saved me a lot of money. I went from paying full tuition to no tuition.
That sounds like a lot. We're going to get into that a little bit more today, but I mean, you're going from paying maybe 25 to 50 public to private respectively to paying nothing. So That's awesome. So please, I want you to tell us about your journey through nursing school. All right. I want you to tell me about how that's been so far. You're about to graduate. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Absolutely. You're welcome. And I want you to tell me about the relationships, finding your purpose, and how was it executing that plan from getting into nursing school to where you are now?
The plan, I kind of I had to really get a relationship with my advisor. I I went into college actually knowing what I wanted to do, which is not normal at all. Like my freshman year is like, okay, I want to go into nursing. And I told my advisor, I spoke to her a lot because a lot of students, they don't speak to their advisor as much. So then they're taking the wrong classes or they're not passing their classes when they could get advice from their advisor. I think the best thing my advisor told me was to like get relationships with my teachers. And I did that because my freshman year statistics almost took me out, but I ended up making an A in the class, but I didn't think I was going to get through that class. And then I had a lot of sciences I had to take, and I ended up taking some online because I was taking like the max amount of classes you could take each semester because I was like, I want to hurry up and get a nursing school. But then I started to come to y'all's program of Laddering Success, and I actually read like the book and started, investing in some of the techniques that y'all showed me. And I actually applied them to school. Relationships, y'all also helped me with that a lot, getting out of my shell and talking more because I tend to just sit and be quiet. But I learned that sometimes speaking up can get you very far, and not going to lie, I think that is like one of the main reasons. Well, of course, like I took y'all's advice on applying for the scholarships early, but then I went and actually spoke to this man named Dr. Whitaker, who's kind of like over a big part of the nursing program. And once I kind of told him like my situation and stuff, he was very understanding, and he's actually very supportive of Black students getting their education. So he was like, you keep your grades up and we'll figure something out. I was like, okay. So then this was after my first semester, but it was, again, I think it was summer. I want to say it was summer. I was sitting in the car and I got a scholarship and it was $500. I was like, cool. So I called my dad. And then like 2 weeks later, I had just finished working out and I got an email and I thought it was a scam. And I had looked at it and it was a big scholarship. It was basically going to cover everything. And I looked at it, I was like, and so I called my dad. I was like, first, I want you to say, thank you, God, because before I even tell you anything, it's just what I need you to say. And he said, okay, thank you, God. I said, I got another scholarship. He was like, okay, how much was it? Another $500? I was like, no, it was over like $4,000. Like it covered a lot. So, but as far as the application process, very expensive, a lot more expensive than you would think it would be.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I knew it was going to be free, but just the application alone, I think was like $80, probably more than that. Because I'm trying to further my education and I found out about another program and that application was around 80, but I'm pretty sure ours was more than that. And then we also had to pay for our background check, our drug test, our fitting of mask, the N95 mask. And you also have to buy your supplies, which stethoscopes aren't cheap. Like,
So, quick question: that was the application fee was not for the scholarship, but for school.
no, the application fee was completely separate, and whether you made it in or not, you weren't getting a refund. So, and they had told us that early on.
Cool.
Wow.
To the nursing program.
Yes, sir.
All right, cool.
Well, I think I can speak for all of us when we say how proud we are of you. It takes a lot to take that step, to take that initiative. I know a lot of students, they know about these things, but for whatever reason, they don't do it. And so I'm so proud of you that you said, well, I'm going to go take the step. I'm going to go do this. I still remember we pulled up the University of Alabama website and went over, because that's where you wanted to go. And we went over how much tuition was going to be. And I remember the sentiment being, I got to pay that? Oh, man, come on now. I don't know about all this. Oh, man, I don't know. So, I think you had hinted at like some better options for going to school, in your home state. And so just to see from where you were then to where you are now is just amazing and awesome. Very, very proud of you.
Thank you.
Oh, absolutely.
Hey, LYS fam. It's Olay. Thanks so much for listening to LYS. I just wanted to take a quick moment to talk to the parents. That's right, mom and dad. Parents, prepare your child for their best educational fit after high school with our comprehensive LYS Parents Guidebook. Our helpful guide includes a range of activities designed to help you better understand your child's unique gifts and abilities. Additionally, we provide valuable insights into the student loan debt crisis and offer practical tips on how to avoid accumulating large amounts of debt. Our ebook also includes a wealth of information on scholarships, grants, and payment exemptions that can help guide your child towards a bright and successful future. With our expert guidance, you can rest assured that your child is well prepared to make informed decisions about their education and career path. Don't let your child's future be in jeopardy. Invest in their future today by downloading the LYS Parents Guidebook. Simply go to lys.com/parents to get your copy today. Now let's get back to the show because it's some good topics.
I think as you were talking, you were going over these different fees. And I think that plays perfectly into what we're going to be talking about today, which is the hidden cost of education. So we know that the skyrocketing cost of college tuition between 1985 and 2019, the average cost of college tuition has gone up 404%. I'm going to say that one more time. 404% at public four-year institutions and about 300% at private nonprofit four-year institutions, right? And so you were mentioning some of these different costs, Amaya. Were there any other costs that you noticed while you're getting your undergraduate or while you're in nursing school? Were there any of these costs that you may have noticed?
There's actually a lot.
Mhm.
We have Tiger Smart, which I'm not mad about it, but because it helps make sure you get the right books. With that being said, you probably should go look about your books because they'll charge you, I think it's $400. I think it's $400 for all your books. Now, granted, for me, that's a good deal because one of my books could be $200. But if you're just starting out and you're like a freshman, most of those books are like $20 on Amazon. So it doesn't really make sense. But a lot of people just stay opted in for it because you're automatically opted in for that because people weren't getting their books. So, but even then, even sometimes with Tiger Smart, we still don't get our books on time, or you might not even get your book. So another charge, we have a lot of charges. When I first came to nursing school, we had preview day, and he actually showed us everything that we were charged for. And he was like, you really need to use your resources because you're getting charged for it. And then he showed us every single thing that we were getting charged for. Like, so on our campus, we have free tutoring, we have free therapy. I think it's like you can go 3 times a month or something like that. We have a fitness center here and on the main campus because I'm on the smaller campus. I'm happy about that, especially with nursing. There's a lot more to risk getting charged for on the main campus. There's parking, not parking, like you get charged for parking. but you pay one fee and it should be good for the semester. I personally don't have to worry about that anymore, but when I was on the main campus, it was a pretty big deal because like you don't want your car in the parking garage. It's going to get broken into. So that was a hidden fee. I thought I was just going to be able to park. No, you will get a ticket. And if you're a constant offender, I forgot what it's called, but they'll put like the thing on your tire.
Wow, the boot, like a boot.
They'll put a boot on your tire.
Wow.
We get charged for every single thing that we get that's considered free. So it's not really free, but they put free in front of it. So it makes you feel better, but you're definitely getting charged for that. This semester, our tuition went up. I think it was, I would have to look at the email exactly, but I think it was anywhere between like $200 and $400. A lot of students were upset about it because it was specific to nursing students, and a lot of them here are on scholarships, so it kind of threw them off. So they had to ask for more or try to apply for more. It's something about the testing center, they're fixing it, but that was probably the biggest one so far. And then, like I said, the little petty fees where you have to pay $25 for each little thing, like your drug test, your fitting. I'm trying to think of what else. And they also have organizations, which I'm a part of too. So, but I don't mind paying for that because I'm a part of something that helps, and I do volunteer hours and service hours for that. So there's SNA, there's Black Student Association, that's what I'm in, and I had to pay a fee to get in those. I do understand why they do the fees, but some people really they can't really afford it. Like, and they've told them that they're like, I would join, but I can't afford it, I think it's $25. I don't know why it's always like $25 for everything, but it is.
The straight standard fee.
Usually.
Is SNA like Student Nursing Association?
Yes, there's the Student Nurse Association. Yeah. Now, once I become a nurse, I think there's like a nurse association, and I'll probably try to join that. But they said it's pretty hard to like do their service hours, so we're gonna see.
So there's quite a bit to unpack, and I want to let everyone kind of come in and talk about these things, about the hidden costs here. But one of the things I remember you talking about was a Dr. Whitaker, and I remember the sheet that we have, which basically is like a sheet that helps you pattern out your plan and how you're going to give back to those people who've helped you out. And so one of the things I thought about was, if it's hard to get in, if it's hard to get into that nursing association, giving back to Dr. Whitaker somehow, some way, if he needs help with something, or if he's got a program or something that he's doing, going back and helping him. I think that's what makes what we do so powerful and so cyclical. I can't remember what we call it. Yes, they're called transitional social relationships. Transitional social relationships are social relationships that you make just as you move around, right? As you go from this place to another place, maybe you volunteer at this place or you work here for a little while. And you never know, while you're helping someone, where the next Amaya who's getting ready to go into nursing school is going to come from. And so you can be there to tell that person every single thing that you've been able to do, that you've been able to avoid, all the pitfalls to avoid, and how to take advantage of these things, right? And so just something to keep in mind. Real quick before we go, before we continue, orientation fees, student activity fees, health insurance and student health center fees, technology fees, printing and copying costs, lab fees, online course fees, club fees, athletic fees, library fines, academic transcript fees, graduation fees, There are so many things. When you look, I remember I did that when I finally graduated. I looked at the final sheet and I said, man, I pay for this, I pay for that, I pay for this, I pay for that. And I remembered going and getting a prescription because I had those bumps. You know how you get those bumps in the back of your head? It's usually like black. It's usually black people or Caribbean people. We get those bumps when you go to the barber. It's when I had hair though. And so I went to college and I went to the medical facility and he gave me a prescription. And that was covered with my fees. So many things we're not aware of. I want to open this up for everyone, Festus, Hill, Crawford. Let's talk about some of these fees. And to Amaya's point, how do we take advantage of these things? Because most of these things, you can't take them off your balance, right? You have to pay for them. So let's talk about them and how do we take advantage of those things?
I think first and foremost, one of the ways that we could take advantage of it is being informed about it. And the way you be informed about it is when you go into your student portal and you actually look at the bill. They give you an itemized bill. And in that itemized bill, it has all of those fees that you just described. And so something like a library, right? Or the computer lab, it's like a technology fee. And if I'm a student at whatever college or institution and I never go to the computer lab or I never take advantage of free tutoring or these services, then I'm actually just paying for it and not utilizing it. Well, those services are there and we're being charged for it. So to maximize the use of the resources so that we could perform better academically, we first need to be informed by looking at the bill, going to your student portal, looking at the itemized bill sheet so you can know what you're paying for, what services you can use because you're paying for it. We can take advantage of those.
Man, I think that's a great point. And I think the thing is, so often the trouble is, you get, 17, 18, 19-year-olds going off, and sometimes, especially when you're first generation, your parents haven't been to college. Maybe you don't have, auntie or uncle, or maybe you do, but the auntie or uncle, they got in a lot of debt. So they don't quite know how to avoid the traps, So I think this is just an excellent conversation. And so to that point, you want to look for ways of reducing fees.
Hey, LYS fam. It's Olay once again. These days, many families are busy but want personalized attention. We at Laddering Your Success understand this dilemma and have created a unique approach to help guide you and your child with personal development tools to build a life of purpose. This intimate approach is helpful for those parents that feel the need to have a focused heart-to-heart conversation deciding on the next steps after high school. We provide individual post-secondary planning, virtual customized college and career counseling, and scholarship guidance and planning. Our one-on-one sessions are tailored to each individual student to maximize their potential in the post-secondary realm. With our guidance, your child will be able to make their dreams a reality. Don't wait. Simply go to lys.com/parents to get your copy today. Now let's get back to business on this podcast.
And Amaya, I'm definitely interested in what aspects of the guidebook helped you the most. Definitely want to hear that. But the thing is that, there's some fees that you can actually avoid. You can sidestep them. So if you're online and you're not using things on campus, sometimes you could get some of those removed. Sometimes you can't, but it never hurts to ask, right? If you're, if you don't have technology at home or your own laptop and things like that, then make sure you're using the library resources, right? You want to, again, maximize those resources that are available to you. But if you could, Amaya, could you tell us about the scholarship guidebook? What aspects of it helped you? What advice you took out of there that you're applying?
I think, actually, I have it pulled up. So I'm going to say what page it's on. On page 10, specifically for me, it was the you apply nationally versus locally. So I went at first I started, I think, national. I think that was like part of my issue because I was going too big. And, you know, I started talking to y'all more and y'all were like, you know, make those connections, which I was kind of starting to do better with that. And so I talked to Dr. Whitaker and he was like, these are the scholarships you should probably apply to. And they were a lot more local and smaller, but they had a lot of sponsors. So while it might have been something local, it was like $200,000. That's like 4 or 5 students you could take care of, you know? So I think that helped a lot. And then the don't be sloppy. I am a procrastinator when it comes to scholarships. They make me very nervous because I have to write the essays. Even though I'm pretty good at English, it's just a part of like getting comfortable with asking for money. But you have to get comfortable asking for money if you're a broke college student. So you got to get over that. I think it's just a way of like typing it that makes me nervous. But like reading that kind of made me get out of that. And it made me start. Oh, my mom just joined. and it made me a lot more organized. My mom was on the phone with me while I was doing my scholarships because I was doing them. As a matter of fact, I learned my lesson this time because what I do is I usually apply, but I don't finish them, and then I turn them in like 2 or 3 days, like
Before the deadline or after the deadline?
before, never after,
Okay.
because I have to look over them. Well, I looked over them and I saw that I'm glad that I didn't wait till the day of, because when I looked over them, I had actually put the wrong essay in for a lot of the scholarships. And I was like, oh no. So I had to like just change the files, but it wasn't anything crazy.
That's dope. I love it.
I think you're doing a lot to speak to the average college student who's in that situation. I think the first thing you said about thinking national, I think a lot of kids think, I want to go with the big national one, the Coca-Cola scholarship, or
Yeah.
Pepper. You watch the football game, you see the guys throwing footballs in the cans. You're like, yeah, I want to do that, or just big companies. But you said small and local. You said small and local, and I think that is a huge opportunity that a lot of young people overlook. And so, kudos to you for heeding that wonderful advice in regards to that. Wanted to. Is that my background? I wanted to welcome your mom, Amaya. Hello, good afternoon. How you doing today?
Mom. Let me text her.
Okay, no worries. She can pop in whenever. It's totally open. I wanted to go in real quick into the student loan debt crisis. It has a lot to do with some of these hidden costs because, Amaya, you've been fortunate. I'm assuming you didn't have to use a lot of student loans, if any, throughout your journey. But I know maybe a lot of your classmates or people that your friends, have had to use that. And so it's something that's just getting bigger. And when we think about creating generational wealth, this is a huge block for a lot of folks that want to get that going. I actually just sent Festus a Instagram today of the top 5 worst degrees to get. And there were things like psychology, childhood education, sociology. And he kept saying this thing that I thought was very interesting. He said, first generation, they tend to do this a lot. First generation folks, they tend to do this a lot. And it kind of helped me see, we've all kind of hinted at it today, is knowing these things. A lot of us don't know these things. So maybe even though your passion is in childhood education, is it worth it in the long run if you're not going to be able to pay that cost. But we already know if you're a teacher, they have things like private service loan funding forgiveness. Sorry, they have the loan forgiveness and things like that. But either way,
But yeah, if I could chime in a bit, one of the things to maximize being on campus, a lot of students are undecided, and then they just end up taking whatever's the easiest classes, and that's a big mistake, right? So yes, you could be passionate about early childhood education, but maybe you make that your minor and you make a general studies degree your major. There's a lot going on right now. People talking about the blue collar revolution. I'm so glad that we were ahead of our times with a lot of these things and saying, hey, there's different options other than college, but education is the answer. And so a massive part of the answer. Education is a massive part of the answer. But when you look at it, if people say, don't go to college, that's a mistake. That's a massive mistake. Okay, education is critical, especially if you're that first person in your family who's trying to break through. We want you to break through. You need to break through. Don't listen to all these people say, oh, well, don't go to college. You don't know what their family has. They got a business. They got $1 million in their account, and they talking about some. Hey, you don't need to go to college, and you're like, yeah, you don't know what they got going on over there. So you really need to do a personal assessment yourself about what's important to you, why you want to finish school, why you want to get your education, how that's going to make a difference for you, and then you want to avoid the student loan debt as much as possible, and sometimes you can even get paid to go to school. You know what I mean? If you do this right, I don't think I mind putting money in her pocket yet, but it sounds like she stopped filling out for scholarships when she was doing pretty good. You should have kept going. You can put some of that money back in your pocket. But yeah, that's one of the things is we have to be focused on our individual long-term goals, understand our family backgrounds and where we came from. A lot of people say don't go to college, but the thing is, then they say, okay, replace it with mentors and masterminds. Okay. And then when you look at mentors and masterminds, you're meeting up in coffee shops, you're meeting up in the library, where the college campus has all the things you need in order to do that, to get your education. And so, and just one of the biggest things is, and maybe Amaya can attest to this, is when you're on campus and maybe you find that handful of people you spark with, and you're sitting in the library at 11 o'clock at night and you're talking about some of the world big problems, and you're just like, man, I would have never thought about that. And you're meeting people from outside your neighborhood and outside of your state, and they're giving you advice, and they're telling you about their upbringing, and all of those things matter. They all kind of coalesce for more holistic education. So, I'm big on education. We're big on education, but college is not the only way to be successful. It is a way to be successful. And so that's the thing. Don't just take people's advice. Don't even just take our advice. Our advice is you go find that mentor who's already done what you're trying to do. And then that way they could give you advice on the best path to get there.
Absolutely. Definitely well said. Amaya, real quick, if you have any classmates who have student loan debt, have they mentioned how they plan on managing that student loan debt?
I actually do have a little bit of debt, but
Okay.
I mean, it's not horrible. It's less than a lot of people have. Like, a lot of people leave school with like 45 to like 50, sometimes 60. I have like a fraction of that. And that was because, like I said, I kind of found out about y'all as I had already went through like the process of like going to school. But I still got a full scholarship. The only thing I think I didn't get paid for was my dorm, but hopefully next semester we'll get that paid for. I think we will. My plans, as soon as I can get them forgiven, I'm going to try to aim for that. I'm going to make sure to look at and do my own research but also ask others, because you know what? My mom just got all of her loans forgiven. I think she'd be great to talk about this. I wish she's taking our dog to the restroom right now. But oh, was that her talking?
Hey, I'm on it. I'm just walking outside with him. It's pretty quiet.
Hey, Mom, can you talk to them about your loans getting forgiven? Because I feel like that's really important right now.
Oh, yeah. So I think it was a year and a half ago. I've been paying on these loans I did the 10-year repayment program through the government. And I had originally started out, these student loans were, I think, like 20 grand. And by the time we got to the payoff, even with me making payments over 10 years, they were at 30 something thousand dollars. So yeah, that was very beneficial when I got that letter that they were completely forgiven and paid off. Because yeah, that's a giant money pit, because you're paying on it for 10 years, paying, the minimum they tell you should be paying based on your income and your job, and the balance just continues to go up. So I'm very grateful that happened like it happened and when it happened.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. That's wonderful. So did this happen? This probably happened before Trump came in office, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So I think with the new presidency, I'm not sure if those opportunities, or Festus would be a great source. I'm not sure if those opportunities are as available as they were before. Festus, you know a little bit more about that?
So I'm just waiting to see. I can't, none of us has a crystal ball. I think at least from what I've looked at, is that it seems like they're consolidating the education department within another department, but that part hasn't been 100% clear yet. So basically they're just saying, hey, we're not getting rid of the education department. We're just taking it and putting it here with this other department. And what's her name? McMahon, who is being put up for the education secretary of education. She said that she's for Pell Grants. She wants to see them expanded. Pell Grants are a massive source of funding for a lot of students for college. So she wants to see that expanded. She said she wasn't getting rid of student loan debt repayment. So I don't know where that's going to be at. And one of the things that is interesting from just a math standpoint, as Ms. Taylor was sharing, when you have student loans and they say, okay, pay on those student loans for 10 years. And let's say, for example, you borrowed, let's say $30,000. Well, if they say, okay, well, pay, $300 a month. Well, you pay $300 a month. Over time, that looks like you're actually paying back $36,000. You know what I mean? Versus the $30,000 you borrow, which is 20% return on their money. But sometimes people pay for 20 years. So the original amount has been paid back, but because of the rate at it being paid back was not fast enough, and that interest rate, it just keeps stacking and stacking and stacking. So these are things that, you kind of make you scratch your head, which let me go off the deep end and I'm going to say something here in a little bit that's probably going to be controversial.
Okay, all right. I'm sorry. I thought you were going to say it now. My bad. Okay. So one of the things I was also thinking about is, you've already done a great job of this. Keep talking with the folks in the financial aid department, see if there are any opportunities there. You're going to be a nurse by the time you graduate. So look for programs that are there for that. If I would have went to school and got my degree in childhood education and became a teacher, I would have definitely had paid attention to basically, if you teach at a Title I school for 5 years, you get your student loans forgiven. And so look to see if they have programs like that. Crawford, did you want to talk a little bit about that? No, okay. So essentially that's what it boils down to. If you teach at a Title I school, which is just it's a lower socioeconomic status that a school has, if you teach there for about 5 years, you're able to get your student loans forgiven if you're a teacher. So definitely look to see if they have opportunities like that for nurses. Now, some people would be like, yeah, you got to work, the SES, the Title I version of a hospital, you know what I mean? And you're working at like Ben Taub. Which Ben Taub, I mean, well, I don't know. I'm not sure if you went there when you came to Houston, but Ben Taub is a tier 1 trauma center, something like that, Festus? Like the worst.
For trauma, yeah.
You know what I mean? So, I mean, either way, you're working in something you're passionate about. You're going to be able to give back, and then if you can knock those student loans out, you're going to flourish. You're just trust me, it's a burden. Speaking from experience,
yeah.
it's a burden.
Let me go ahead and let me go and make my controversial statement.
Go ahead.
Now, and I'm gonna back up that controversial statement with the facts, right? So this is from archives.gov. So this is National Archive, and this is a line from the 13th Amendment, right? And so the 13th Amendment, for those who don't know, is the amendment that freed slaves. And so the 13th, and this I'm just reading. The 13th Amendment to the United States Constitution provides that neither slave nor involuntary servitude, except for as punishment for a crime whereof the party shall have been duly convicted, shall exist within the United States or any place subject to their jurisdiction. So the key point here is involuntary servitude. So when you sign those student loan documents, technically saying, and this is why they call it, you have a student loan servicer, you're basically signing and saying, I am voluntarily going to give my service to pay back these loans, because otherwise, where does the money come from? Right? This is a little financial literacy tidbit. When you say, I'm taking a loan, right? Somebody else pays that money on your behalf. So since you don't have the money, what are you giving on your behalf? Your future service, right? That is what debt is, okay? And so the thing is, when you look at, well, what has happened and changed and transferred in America and gone on in America, this is one of the reasons why the marketing traps and all of those things, the schools, come here, don't worry. They label it free, but then they make you sign. And by your signature, you or your parent is voluntarily serving to pay back that debt. And then that's where you get a loan servicer who helps to manage that. So everybody makes money off of it except for you, unless you're very forward thinking and understanding, okay, number one, how many jobs are there going to be in this industry? What Olay said earlier, there's 5 things that people shouldn't do. I'm not a big fan of that. I think that there's a way of getting it done. You just have to look at it, how to get it done. Next is, based off of how much that job pays, is this degree worth it? So I'll give an example for myself. I was getting ready to go do a master's degree, and my manager at the job was like, hey, yeah, go do that management degree. We're going to give you a raise. And I was like, oh man, that sounds good. And then she said how much the raise was going to be. We're going to give you this. And then I started doing some math. And I said, okay, based off of the cost of that degree, which it would have cost me an extra 90 grand. Okay. And you said you were going to give me a raise, and the raise was about $1,000 a month. By my rough calculations, I'm not the best at math. It was going to take me 20 years to pay off that degree for the extra $1,000 a month. I'm like, I'm not giving away 20 years of my life. It ain't worth it. You know what I'm saying? I could go figure something else out to make another $1,000 a month. You know what I'm saying? Or maybe you don't even need to make $1,000 a month. Maybe you need to make 300, and you could wash cars on the weekend or something. You could tutor, you could clean houses. There's a lot of other things you could do to just say, hey, I want to make some more money versus going to get in debt, right? But education is important. And so we don't want to conflate. We don't want to mix in education with debt and indebtedness. No, because in order to learn, you don't need to go in debt. You go to the library, you search the internet. There's other things that you could do, but also going to school is just taking advantage of what is free. But it's very unfortunate, and it's not free. It's paid for by tax dollars. Let's put it that way. Look, use what's paid for by tax dollars. It's not free. Okay, because once you start working, your tax dollars are going to go to that thing too. Okay, that's just the way the system works. But it's very unfortunate because sometimes we look at these things and we don't see the value in them because they're available to everybody. And since we didn't have to pay for the library, we didn't have to pay for the internet connection in Starbucks, we didn't have to pay for those things, we tend to just think it's not really valuable. So I'm done bursting people's bubble.
No, I think that was a great way to describe that, to put that. I could see how maybe people would see that as controversial, but I think there's just more truth to it when you break down the semantics like you did. So thank you so much for that, Christian. I learned something new today in regards to that. So I appreciate that. So folks, as we wrap up, it's clear that the hidden costs of education are a significant concern for students and families. It's crucial to research thoroughly and consider all options before making this important investment in your future. Amaya, do you have any final thoughts for our listeners who might be considering nursing school or higher education in general?
Well, I would say if you're going the nursing route, I would tell you the same thing my doctor said. If you're going to pay for anything, let it be the BSN. After that, you better get that paid for. You contract with someone, you suck it up, you work with them for 2 years, and you get your classes and your higher education paid for. That's literally what my primary care doctor told me. She was like, are you going to go get your master's or your doctorate? I was like, I don't know. It depends on money. And she was like, well, you better not pay for it. I was like, okay. She didn't pay for any of her higher education. And I've already found some schools that are already offering to pay for a doctorate, like a BSN to a doctorate. So once I get some experience, hopefully we'll apply to that because it's free.
Come on now. Come on now. Love it. Love it, Amaya. So proud of you. Thank you again, Amaya. Thank you to Miss Taylor. Thank you to Grandma. We see you out there. Appreciate you, Hill, for setting that up. Thank you again, Amaya, for sharing your valuable insights with us today. To our listeners, remember to subscribe to Edu of Steps for more discussions on navigating the complex world of education and career planning. If you found this episode helpful, please leave us a review and share it with friends who might benefit. For the future doc, Jamar Crawford, for the one and only Daniel Hill, my name is Olay Shorunke, reminding you that knowledge is power, especially when it comes to understanding the true cost of your education. Keep learning, keep growing, and keep laddering your success. Festus, my good friend, give him the phrase that pays.
All right, listen, so you heard it once and you only heard it here. There are legitimate excuses for not going to college. There's no legitimate excuse for not getting an education. Please hit that share button with somebody who needs to hear this, and we will see you on the next episode.